You are listening to the Cresco Wealthcast, and I'm your host, Dimitri Korolis. I'm an advisor with Cresco Wealth Management, a division of Wellington Altus Private Wealth. And the purpose of this Wealthcast is really to bring those down-to-earth conversations that we're having not only with ourselves internally, but also with clients. Just want to bring you authentic, real coffee talk convos that we can all appreciate and understand. You can follow the podcast on Podbean, www.cresco.podbean.com, as well as my Instagram page on the Instagram stories and highlights, which is at The Finance Greek.
As you know, we've done a series of podcasts. Again, a lot that you've done with Peter Kollias on the team, or that you've heard of, excuse me. And coffee talk conversations, just things that we're hearing from clients, things that we're hearing out in the street, but we've never actually introduced the team. And I think, Peter, it was in our last podcast that we did discuss this and talk about it. And I'm just happy because we got the videographers in. There's a movie scene vibe going on over here.
It's full production.
But full production, ladies and gentlemen, Cresco Wealth Management, the brains behind the brains, Dean Bradshaw, Peter Kollias, Chris Durno. Welcome.
Thanks for having us, Dimitri.
Thank you.
It's the first podcast, first time we've all been together. I'm going to pick on Dean. And he's sitting cool in the corner.
Trying to hold the couch together.
There were some technical difficulties. Dean Bradshaw, Cresco, why don't you take us into a little bit of the story, its inception, and how we came to be where we are today.
You know, when we founded Cresco, I really didn't know anything. But I knew that it needed to be better in our industry and people needed better. And so I kind of joke that we're kind of the 3M of the industry. We don't invent a lot of the stuff that we do. We just make it better. I think the biggest thing is we just deliver on what we say we're going to do, as opposed to having it come across as a marketing pitch that this all sounds great and then, you know, you kind of quasi-deliver it from that perspective. And so, you know, I think that's the biggest thing different. And even as I go across the country coaching other teams, they always ask, like, why are you guys so successful? And I really have a tough time answering that, because we just say we do what we say we're going to do.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting you say that, Dean, is, you know, we talk about, you hear quite a bit as, well, what are you doing differently? What is it that makes you guys stand out? And it's doing what you're doing in it. It reminds me of, you know, that saying is like, okay, the concept of running a marathon, it's pretty easy. You're just running. It's just really hard to do, right? And so, you know, just keeping it simple and being repetitive and being disciplined and focusing on what we're doing is, you know, what I've learned from Dean and what Cresco strives for.
He's never tried to run a marathon before.
No, it's not true. I did try to run it. It didn't mean I finished it. I did try to do it.
Define running really quick before we get into anything else, because there's the fast walk.
It was a fast walk. It was
right. Okay.
It was a Greek pace run.
Okay, Chris, let's move it over to you. What defines a team like that? Being able to deliver on what you say you can do, like Dean and Pete had touched on. What do you have to have internally to be able to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Dimitri, and I've brought it back a few times. A lot of us come from different backgrounds, different industries. A lot of us come from sports, and what I found in my previous career in terms of creating successful teams is everyone brings different things to the team and different talents to the team, and when we go through successful or challenging periods, we lean on each other, and this has been no different from when we came over to Wellington to, you know, challenging markets to everyday things that we're dealing with, and you know, it's been the support of each other that gets us through those periods.
Who wants to take it to the next? Maybe we can talk a slight touch of the transition from Wellington, or from our previous institution to Wellington, and from a leadership perspective, how do you look at that? How do you make that call, especially after being so long in the industry, the three of you?
Dean?
Hi.
Dean introduced the idea.
Dean introduced it. That's what we're putting it on you. It was his
maybe
idea.
I asked the wrong question. I think they might be mad at you for that. Maybe.
No, farthest thing from
No, not at all.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, clients pay us for a lot of different things, and I've said a lot that part of that is to, you know, in my view, is to make sure we're at the right place to do the things that we want to do. And so when you look around the industry and where our options are to run our practice at, to us, it was a pretty quick, short list to make that decision. And when your whole mantra is about client experience at the end of the day, and technically we run a practice and we're partnered with the firm that you're at, and if you're at a partner, or you're partnering up with somebody that has their own baggage on the other side, whether it's mortgage delinquencies being at the banks, or not getting private funding at some of those kind of tier 3 firms within our industry, you have to be cognizant about all of that. And because if you're at a bank-owned firm and they're having mortgage problems or something, and they're cutting back, that's going to have a material impact on how you run your practice indirectly. And I don't think a lot of people think of it that way. And same holds true. Like if you're at a tier 3 firm that's struggling to maintain the capital base that you're required to be part of IROC and so on and so forth, that's going to dictate how you run your business. And so to me, it is a true partnership, no differently than what the three of us have. You have to be able to rely on them, lean on them when they need it. And same holds true. They got to be able to lean on you when they need help. And that was really one of the big drivers, was, are we going to be at a place where we can deliver? And where we were before, technology was always a headwind for us. The salary cap ratios that they put on us, you got to generate so much production to be able to hire as many people. Those are all indirect. I don't think there's one big kind of moment. I think there's a bunch of little things that add up to a fairly substantial scenario. So to me, partnering with, or the firm that you're at, it has to be a true partnership. It can't be just a transaction scenario.
So, go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was just going to elaborate, and I would agree with all that. And one of the big things, that caught my attention during the transition was meeting with Sean and meeting with Charlie, and they made a comment around, I think their language was managing to yes. And they mentioned that a few times, and managing to yes. And so what does managing to yes means? So a lot of what Dean talked about, it was, you go to management at the big bank, and it's no, sorry, that's not going to work. And over here, we've been able to have those conversations with the executive team, with our regional managers, with Gary, and have that open dialogue and find solutions when we have those challenges. That, yeah, we need somebody. Okay, well, go hire somebody. You need this. Okay, well, we're going to bring in this professional coach to support you guys. And so it's been a collaborative, is that the right word? Much more collaborative environment to make us successful over here.
Yeah, that's at all levels too, right? I mean, we take a look at it. It comes from the top, from Charlie and Sean and Jordy there. Yeah. But then you look across and you talk to colleagues, whether they're in Vancouver or in Saskatchewan, they're all willing to help, right? As soon as you land, they're just saying, welcome to the team, welcome to the family. And that just really drives down in the culture. So there was a cultural match from that. And, both Chris and Dean make a big point there as far as, the whole business here at Wellington Altus is the client wealth management. It's not getting diluted with all these other services. It's not retail banking, it's not commercial banking, it's not capital markets, the list goes on and on and on, and you're fighting for resources for wealth management. The whole business is wealth management, and from that, the client is going to get the best experience.
What I like hearing and seeing, you take Wellington, for example, where you have a shift in the industry internally, and capitalizing on that opportunity and partnering with a great firm. Pete, I'll stick with you in terms of wealth management externally for the client. In your career, what have you seen being the shift and where we're at today, and things to be mindful of the future?
I think I know it's everything that we do here at Cresco, right? When you first came in this industry, it was all about the concept of investments, chasing that investment. What's going to be the big home run? And, that serves zero purpose for anybody. There's just no win at the end of the day for that. And it's really delivering on everything for the client, everything beyond just the investment piece. Okay, let's focus on the planning. Let's build a foundation for that client. Let's then build a portfolio around that financial planning. But then let's also educate the client. Let's take a moment to listen and hear what their needs are, what's important to them, and then really gear to building that relationship and knowing what's important to them. And then further to that is as we started, circling back is if we've set this up, is, delivering on what we say we're going to do, building a great team around to make sure we're delivering. People are busy, right? The world gets more and more complicated. We're here to simplify and make their lives easier. So they want to call in, there's going to be someone that's going to pick up the phone, they need something done, we're going to take care of it for it. And we're going to be ahead of the curve too. We're going to be proactive for them. So, Christine, feel free to add, but it's really, the industry is we've always been ahead of the curve, right? Always wanting to build out and deliver this full service and then execute on it to the best that we can. Just strive for excellence.
So it's easy for us to say internally, as we see it every day, we're talking with clients, we're dealing with these issues, and proactively, the three of you are developing a game plan for the team. Let's give a takeaway to clients and or listeners that are going to listen to this podcast. When they're out there, what should be ringing, what alarm bells, should be ringing? Things that they're not getting, things that they're not hearing to say, uh-oh, I might be working with the wrong team. I might be working with the wrong institution. You're allowed to default to everything.
Yeah, no, everything. I'll give it to you in a second here, but one just jumped top of mind is you'll often have potential clients come in that are, all they've ever spoken about or talked about is performance, markets. And really, is that important? 100%. But we want to look at as I think Pete alluded to a little bit, look at the full picture. Understand, first off, what they're trying to achieve. And then build out a risk tolerance, a time horizon, income requirements that fits what them and their family are trying to achieve in terms of achieving those goals. I often see that it just, performance versus index, and that's not always the ultimate goal of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think be aware to see if someone's asking you questions. Right? Are they asking you questions? Or are they telling you? If they're telling you, some red flags that are going to happen to occur, right? Or are they asking questions? Much like Chris said, what are you trying to achieve? What's important to you? How can we help you? Right. So it's all about asking those questions and learning as much as possible, so then you can find the best possible strategy and solution for those.
So it'll be 30 years this September that I've been in the industry, and I think one of the biggest things that I learned is nobody questions risk until they're after the fact. And I think a lot of people can attribute that to an investment. To me, I think it's who you're choosing to work with. If you're just dealing with a broker or an investment advisor, or a broker that's wearing an investment advisory cloak to call themselves an investment advisor, if you're not getting everything that you need to look at, kind of what Chris and Pete have touched on, like, that's a risk thing too, and usually it's more detrimental risk than any one investment going down dramatically, because you're usually at the age where you can't do anything about it anymore. Or if you're not, what's the saying, like, if you're not planning, or if you're not prepared to plan, you're not planning to be prepared, or whatever, some smart guy came up with some saying around that I can't repeat. But, I don't think really people understand the risks that they have with the relationships with the people that they deal with, how they're looking at things. And the unfortunate part is it's usually too late. And I think, I was having a chat with a client the other day that they say, like, what's the biggest risk in retirement? And I said, like, you guys don't spend enough. That's your biggest risk. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, most people have, how many people do you talk to at the age of 90 that say, well, I wish if I would have known I would have had this much money now, I would have spent more or done more stuff, I guess is the proper terminology. And if you don't have a properly structured portfolio that goes through, and the reason why they don't have, or the reason why they haven't spent the money to do things that they have, is during end of the world scenarios that present themselves, they just shut down their life because they don't want to sell any assets to go on a trip or do a family event or a 50th wedding anniversary or pay for a kid's wedding or whatever it may be. And then things recover, and then they're like, well, now I have more money because it recovered and then I didn't spend anything. And there's so many risks in this world and in our industry for sure, that why create more if you don't need to? And so more risks in, sure, how you build a portfolio that's just centered around returns, kind of thing. But also more risk on who you're working with and what they're not delivering on that you need to be looking at. More risks on your bias to how you handle debt, or more risks to just how your portfolio is structured to stand the test of time. More risks on, your biased views about which government's going to be in the lead. Like, there's just so much stuff that you don't need to throw into the mix because there's enough of it as it is.
No, very well said, and we'll leave it on this as we cut it down for time. We are here today. The three of you have done a phenomenal job carrying a team over. I'll say on my side, carrying all the risk of coming over, providing a fantastic workplace, not because I'm really trying to keep my job right now. I hope that it's working. And now people are hearing it, so you have to keep me for a little bit longer so it doesn't look weird. But here we are today. You've done all this. You've navigated the ship. You've continued to create a culture, work on that culture. Let's leave it with one step forward. What's the vision for Cresco? What's next? What needs to be on the horizon that wealth teams need to be thinking about?
Well, if we told them, that wouldn't be good, would it?
Perfect answer. The Greek with keeping the recipe.
just learn how to finish a marathon.
And I stress this when we bring new people on. I mentioned it this morning, but there's lots of great ideas out there, and the three of us or the four of us don't have all those ideas. And so when we bring new people into the mix, it's utilize their experiences. Ask them, ask questions, understand what other industries are doing to make us as a team and clients happier down the road.
I think, Pete, you said it in our investment committee meeting yesterday. What was the term? Active
Patience.
Bruce
Lee statement, just to be perfectly clear.
Was it?
Yes, Bruce Lee.
No, we can coin it.
I'm not going to take credit for that.
We can coin it.
We can coin it.
We'll put it in the fine print.
All right.
Okay. Well, with that, listen to the three of you again. Chris Durno, Peter Kollias, Dean Bradshaw, founders of Cresco. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully this was informative to you all. And as a reminder, we are now streaming on Spotify. You can go directly to Spotify and just look up the Cresco Wealthcast. www.cresco.podbean.com is our other source. And of course, please don't hesitate on LinkedIn to follow Cresco Wealth Management. You can get this podcast and all content. And of course, reach out to us with any questions or anything that you heard today that you want us to extrapolate more for you. Thank you.